The smell was the first warning. Not a scream, not a witness, just a strange odor drifting quietly through the hallway of a worn apartment building, an odor that would soon uncover one of the darkest secrets a city had ever hidden. In the late summer of 1993, the city of Riverton seemed ordinary. Traffic moved slowly through humid streets, neon diner lights flickered after midnight, and people kept to themselves inside aging apartment complexes. One of those buildings' gray concrete, narrow hallways, and tired fluorescent lights stood at the corner of Grant Street. Apartment 213 belonged to a quiet man named Daniel Harker. Neighbors rarely spoke about him. He worked odd hours. Sometimes he was polite, even soft-spoken. Other times he seemed distant, almost hollow. Residents would occasionally see him carrying grocery bags late at night, his shoulders hunched, avoiding eye contact. But there were small details people ignored at first. The snow. At times it drifted into the hallway like spoiled food left too long in the sun. When tenants complained, Daniel calmly explained it away. "Bad meat," he once told a neighbor with an awkward smile. "My freezer broke." Most people accepted the explanation. Life was busy. Rent was cheap. People didn't ask too many questions. But beneath the quiet exterior of apartment 213, something deeply disturbing was unfolding. Daniel Harker had always struggled with isolation. Friends from his childhood remembered him as quiet, withdrawn, almost invisible in a crowded room. Teachers described him as polite but emotionally distant, as if he were observing life from behind a glass wall. As he grew older, the isolation hardened into something darker. Inside his apartment, Daniel lived in a world completely separated from everyone else. The blinds stayed closed. Lamps cast dim yellow light across cluttered tables. The television murmured late into the night, often the only voice in the room. And sometimes there were visitors. Most neighbors assumed Daniel had friends. Occasionally someone would see a stranger enter the building with him. Usually young men passing through the city, travelers, drifters, people who wouldn't easily be missed. But the strange thing was, no one ever remembered seeing them leave. Months passed like this. Then one evening everything changed. A young man named Marcus Reed was walking through Riverton's downtown district. Music spilled from bars, taxis crawled through traffic, and people laughed loudly on sidewalks. Marcus was 20 years old. He had come to the city looking for work and adventure. He didn't know many people yet. That night he crossed paths with Daniel. Daniel spoke calmly, friendly, almost shy. "Want to make a little money?" he asked casually. Marcus hesitated. "What kind of job?" "Just helping me move some boxes," Daniel said. "Nothing serious." Marcus considered it. It seemed harmless, so he followed Daniel back to the apartment building on Grant Street. When they entered the hallway, the familiar odor lingered in the air. Marcus noticed it immediately. "What's that smell?" he asked. Daniel paused for a moment before answering. "Old pipes," he said quietly. Inside the apartment, the atmosphere felt heavy. Curtains blocked the outside world. A small lamp glowed beside stacks of boxes. The television flickered silently in the background. Marcus felt uneasy. Not afraid exactly, just unsettled. Daniel offered him a drink. Moments passed in quiet conversation, but Daniel's behavior began to change. His voice grew tense. His movements became careful, deliberate. Marcus noticed something else. Handcuffs sitting on the table. "Why do you have those?" Marcus asked. Daniel's eyes flickered. "Just a joke," he replied. But something inside Marcus told him this wasn't a joke. The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. Marcus stood up. "I should go." Daniel moved toward the door. But instead of opening it, he locked it. The air in the apartment shifted instantly. Marcus's heartbeat quickened. "What are you doing?" he asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. His shoulders trembled slightly, as if fighting some internal storm. "I don't want you to leave," Daniel finally said. The words hung in the air. Marcus slowly backed away. "Look, I'm leaving," he said calmly. For several long seconds neither man moved. Then Marcus made a sudden decision. He rushed past Daniel, grabbing the doorknob and pulling it open before Daniel could react. Marcus sprinted down the hallway and out into the humid night air. He didn't stop running until he reached a nearby street corner where two police officers were patrolling. Breathless, shaking, Marcus told them everything. The officers exchanged concerned glances. Something about the story felt serious. They decided to return with Marcus to the apartment building. When police knocked on the door of apartment 213, Daniel answered calmly. At first he seemed cooperative. But when officers stepped inside the room, one detail immediately caught their attention. A strange chemical smell filled the air. And in the corner of the room, a locked metal container. One officer slowly approached it. "What's inside?" he asked. Daniel swallowed. "Just personal things." The officer opened it. What investigators discovered inside that apartment would soon shock the entire city of Riverton. Evidence of multiple crimes. Hidden belongings. Photographs. Items that clearly belonged to several missing people. The quiet man from apartment 213 had been living a secret life, a life filled with manipulation, deception, and unimaginable darkness. Daniel Harker was arrested that night. As investigators pieced together the truth, a tragic pattern emerged. Daniel had lured vulnerable strangers into his apartment, people who trusted him for a moment too long. The case sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors who once passed him in the hallway replayed every interaction in their minds. The polite smile, the quiet greetings, the harmless explanations. All of it had hidden something far more disturbing. During interrogation, Daniel appeared strangely calm. Detectives asked him one question again and again. Why? For a long time, Daniel said nothing. Then quietly he answered, "I didn't know how to live like everyone else." The statement revealed a painful truth about the case. Beneath the crimes was a broken mind, one shaped by isolation, distorted thinking, and unchecked darkness. But investigators were clear about one thing. Understanding someone's mind does not excuse their choices. Justice had to be served. The trial lasted weeks. Evidence was presented piece by piece, painting a picture of a man who had allowed his darkest thoughts to become real actions. In the end, Daniel Harker was sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind prison walls. Apartment 213 was eventually sealed and abandoned. The building still stands today, though many residents refuse to speak about the past. The hallway where that strange smell once drifted remains quiet now. But for the families of the victims, the silence means something very different. It is a reminder of the cost of hidden evil. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threats are not loud or obvious. Sometimes they are quiet people behind closed doors, watching, waiting, and hiding secrets no one wants to imagine. Sometimes one wrong choice can destroy a lifetime. Learn from their story, choose kindness, choose life.
This was just the beginning. The most mysterious and shocking crime stories are still ahead. Subscribe to Crime Flow Narratives and be among the first to uncover what comes next.